I would like to just start by welcoming everyone, wishing you a good evening. I am Persis Drell, the Provost of Stanford University, and I'm really delighted to be here to kick off the festivities celebrating the completion of Encina Commons and Courtyard. Now, this project, as I understand it, has been a long time dream. And when I say long time, I'm actually not even joking. It's apparently been 20 years in the making, but I think it was worth the wait. I actually don't have a good memory of what this used to look like, but this is beautiful. Certainly, Encina is one of the great treasures of Stanford University. And a little later in this program, you'll be hearing more about its history and architecture from its first iteration as a men's dorm to its new incarnation as a fully academic space. Encina, as I hope you all know, is now totally dedicated to programs related to international relations. The Freeman Spogli Institute and its many centers and programs, Stanford Global Studies, and the Political Science Department are all sharing space here. Judy, where are you? How did political science get to be so lucky? How did FSI get to be? Okay, all right. Certainly this creates really wonderful opportunities for collaboration and cross-pollination. And I just like to, as I'm standing here, imagine the conversations that are going to go on in this courtyard in the years to come. I think these walls will ring with vigorous discussions on issues of governance and public policy and security and political behavior and institutional design and the effects of globalization on all of the above. I look forward to seeing what develops in the next few years with this beautifully renovated facility, and I look forward to the great research ideas that will blossom from the fertile ground here. Now, before I introduce our next speaker and really kick this off, there are a few people I would like to recognize. Laureen Docks, Stephen Bechtel Jr., and the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, if we could thank that group. Hamid and Tina Guatkin Mogadon, who are here. And Ken Olivier and Angela Nomelini, who are also here. I got there. So your generosity helped get this project off the ground. Thank you for your vision and your faith in this project. We're thrilled to have you as partners in Encina's rebirth. So again, thank you all for joining us here this evening. It's a wonderful reason to celebrate. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mike McFall, the Professor of Political Science, Senior Fellow at Hoover Institute, Senior Fellow at the Freeman Spogli Institute, and Director of the Freeman Spogli Institute. Mike, there you are. Great.
Thanks, Persis. Thanks for being here. Thank you all for being here. I don't know why all the seats in the front are not taken, but just like students, yes. Usually at this point when I'm lecturing, I demand people move, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'll be brief. And Judy, remember, we were in Building 160 together. Okay, all right, on the quad. So anyway, all right, let's not talk about that. Let's not go back to that far. I also just want to express some thanks, again, to the Bechtel Foundation, to Lori Dax, to Ken and Angela, and to Tina and Christina. Where are Tina and Christina? Oh, that's why I didn't, sorry, Hamid and Christina. I just see Hamid there. Thank you all for being with us through this all. It did take a longer than we wanted. I do know what was here, Persis. It was really ugly, really horrible. Nobody ever wanted to go back here, and it was right in the middle of one of the most beautiful places in the world. We had this incredible eyesore, and now look at this fantastic space we have. So to all of you, thank you for making it happen. And I can't see so well, but I also just want to thank some of the other people that were involved in getting us across the finish line. Is Ann Arvin here? Anne was the Dean of Research before Cam and was a giant champion of this project, and I'm so glad that we finally got it done. Richard Soller also was a big supporter of this, and right in the very, very last moments, our former provost, John Etchemendy, also helped to put us over the finish line, and I just want to say thank you to those colleagues as well. I also just want to tell you, it's only been this way for a few months, but it already is changing what happens here. Geography does matter, it turns out, despite our 21st digital age. Just two anecdotes from my experience here so far. One, the Iranian study, Abbas is here. So Abbas has this fantastic office over here, nicer than mine, by the way, Dr. Milani. A beautiful space over in Stanford Global Studies. Abbas and I have been writing articles together for 15 years maybe and collaborating on many things, both here and over at Hoover. But I have been over to the program on Iranian studies more times in the last 2 months than I think I had in the previous 15 years, because it's right there. And I think that is going to be a really important part of how our community comes together. The other anecdote, we just had a reunion homecoming weekend here. And we collaborated with Stanford Global Studies, International Relations, and FSI to do an event over at Memorial Auditorium. And then we hosted here a joint reception of political science, international relations, and FSI. And we filled up this space, and it was fantastic because a lot of people have multiple identities in that community, and we were all here together. So for those of you who are worried if we're going to use this space properly, we are already doing so. Finally, I just want to acknowledge the people that got this started before me, former directors of FSI. Is Tino here? Tino's coming, I know. Gerhard Casper, Tino Cuellar, and Chip Blacker. Gerhard's in Germany. Tino, I know, is coming. But let me just say a word about Tino and then a word about Chip. Tino thankfully got the negotiations about the space done between political science, Stanford Global Studies, and me. Everything at Stanford that's about space is difficult to do, and I'm very grateful that Tino did that hard set of negotiations. But the real person and the visionary for this idea, the person that started it and saw it through until he handed it over to the rest of us, was Chip Blacker. Chip understood that we needed a space for international studies, that we needed a space for FSI to grow, and it was his vision and his dedication of working with other people in the audience today that got us here. And so, Chip, I just want to say thank you. As a small token of our thanks, earlier this year, we renamed the Encina lobby the Coit D. Blacker Lobby. So on your way out, check it out. But I just want to make a special, say a special word of thanks to Chip Blacker for who really this was his vision, and we did it for you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Deborah Satz, I believe, the Dean of Humanities and Sciences.
All right, thank you for all being here. It's fantastic to be here at this very long-awaited dedication. I, too, remember what a dump this used to be, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful gem. It's also a pleasure for me to be here when the Humanities and Sciences Council is also at dinner with the Freeman Spogli Council. We have some members that we share and a common commitment to support Stanford in all that it does. As Persis and Mike just mentioned, this event and this project was many, many years in the making, and I want to call out a special thanks to Richard Saller, who was the Dean of Humanities and Sciences from 2007 to 2018, and who worked tirelessly to bring this project to completion. So I want to celebrate his commitment to that and say that I, too, am very committed to this shared space. So co-location, to pick up, you'll hear some themes that have been echoed already in Mike's remarks and Percis's remarks. Co-location matters, and having H&S faculty here together with faculty from Freeman Spogli, with faculty in political science, creating a hub for international studies, and bridging policy and theoretical work across these divisions is really exciting and something I think that will change, a lot of things at Stanford. Space really matters. As Mike said, when you design space in a new way and you bring people together, you've got the opportunity to have conversations around the water cooler, bumping into the hall with people, having the kind of conversations you might not have if you were totally segmented and in different areas. This is really exciting, I think, to have Stanford Global Studies co-located with Freeman Spogli and the Political Science Department. I think space really does matter. We've got a lot of faculty who are shared between the School of Humanities and Sciences and Freeman Spogli, and this kind of symbolizes and valorizes that sharing of people. We place a strong emphasis at Stanford on interdisciplinary research and teaching, and I think of this space as an embodiment, a material embodiment of that commitment, and that matters. Plus, it's beautiful, and people want to be here. And so that's also really wonderful for bringing about community. People matter, but the space people are in really can facilitate or inhibit what happens. Having really narrow corridors where people don't have a chance to mingle, this has so much fantastic space for mingling. So I'm thrilled that this has finally happened. I celebrate, this amazingly beautiful space. And now I want to introduce Dave Lennox, who helped make this happen and was very involved in the design of this space, who will tell you more about how it came to be. So thank you.
So it's great to be here, and I'll echo, it is a pleasure to bring this one home. For me, and this is sort of a dirty little secret, breathing new life in our existing structures, our historical resources, is somewhat more fun and a little bit more satisfying than just doing one from scratch. And so this is a real testament. I started as a university architect in 2005. And the first study I worked on was the Encina Commons study. And I will admit, I call it well-paced. I don't want to necessarily say this took a long time. I also didn't call it a dump, but we'll get to that in a second. But I really, you look around, as everybody has said, and it was well worth the effort and the time that it took. So the Encina complex has a real rich history. It includes two buildings, Encina Hall, 1891, and Encina Commons, 1922. And Encina Commons was truly designed to support the dining for the men that lived in Encina Hall, and it originally served about 500 students. Now the plan is this beautiful mosaic of courtyards and these vaulted dining rooms, and those vaulted dining room spaces served as the community eating clubs. And they help to complement the larger dining halls in the Commons itself. And it's curious because we are now working on residential life here at Stanford and studying residential neighborhoods. And this concept of creating community-sized dining spaces finds its roots here. And it's really wonderful, and I'm so glad we're able to restore many of these vaulted dining rooms into common spaces, convening spaces. So the firm of Bakewell and Brown designed Encina Commons in what we call an eclectic style. So it used elements from the revival styles of Spanish colonial, Italian Renaissance, of Romanesque, and of Mission. And just like today, architects like to play around a bit and experiment, and this eclectic style really became popular in California at the time. So if you take a look at the building, the smooth stucco walls, the low-pitched gable roofs clad with the Spanish tile are really indicative of the Spanish colonial revival style. The Italian Renaissance revival can be seen in the facade tower, in the beautiful columns, their distinct capitals that's on the front of the building. The round arch located at the main entrance and the capitals and columns are examples and features of Romanesque revival. And then just to mix it up a bit, we have the courtyards and the arcades, which are more reminiscent of the Mission planning. So it's really eclectic, but it's really been a truly loved building and a resource for a campus. So back in 2005, when we really started to study this revitalization, there were really 3 opportunities that we saw to make this happen. The demolition of the old service kitchen is what I think has been referred to as the dump. Literally where you're sitting was this big flat roof stucco box. And the rest of this was pretty much a service courtyard. Not so nice looking. Many of the vehicles that came in and out through the arcade gateways hit the columns and damaged this building many, many times. But now it's been transformed into this lovely courtyard. And I do see this being used far into the future for wonderful events. The renovation of the original dining servery through those arched windows really provides that vibrant coming together space. And that sparkling arched window, that wasn't really all there because that's where the kitchen abutted to the existing buildings. We spent a lot of effort to make sure that the profile of those mullions in the windows, the scale, the size, the material, all reflected the beautiful elegance of all the existing windows and fenestration in the building. And then the third opportunity was really to find a way to connect Encina Commons in a much more gracious way to Encina Hall. So now the Bechtel Conference Center, the Encina Hall, really we find these great opportunities to strengthen the collaboration and enhance the convening. So I have confidence that this transformation really will extend the life of this wonderful resource. But more importantly, support the program and the vision of FSI and the humanities and the sciences. So I'm really, really happy this all came together like this. And now it's our pleasure to hear from Dean Cam Muller.
Thank you, David. You and your team, you did a spectacular job here. I have some remarks I was going to make, but your comments on the history make me want to share the fact that even those of you who know me well probably don't know, which is that when my uncle was in the military, he had the honor of spending a year at Stanford, and he lived in Encina. And the stories that my uncle told about being here, my mother was 6 at the time, but hearing him talk about his Stanford experience, I think was instrumental in helping my mother develop a vision in which she could leave her large family in Utah and have the courage to come out here to Stanford. And so I think of this courtyard and all the people who have been in spaces near here and all the people who will be in spaces near here in the future, and really thank you for your work to preserve this history and turn it into this amazing, amazing space. I have the pleasure of overseeing all of Stanford's independent academic institutes, and FSI is the largest and a very, very important and influential one of those. And it's really a pleasure to work closely with Mike McFall in his leadership of FSI. And he often talks to me about how much collaboration means to him and to FSI. My own faculty appointment is in humanities and sciences, and it's also a pleasure to work closely with Deborah Satz as deans and on the executive cabinet of the university. And through both of those avenues, I know just how incredibly important it is for FSI and HNS to share this space to make research collaborations easier. Form should follow function, and I'm just amazed to see how this beautiful space came together and is now completed and is ready to be being put to full use for academic research. One of my favorite quotes is from Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill famously said that we shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. And I love the thought that's been so clearly articulated by Persis and by Mike and by Deborah and by David of how Stanford needs this kind of dedicated space for the community of international studies scholars to come together. So I know there's only, we've heard thanks already, and dinner is waiting, but nevertheless, I would like to say thanks again to extend my gratitude to the SD Bechtel Foundation and Lori Dax, Ken Olivier, and Angela Nomalini, and Hamid and Tina Magadam for their support and also for their patience. Thank you. I also want to say a word of thanks to all the staff of LBRE, all the staff of the Dean of Research, the Freeman Spogli Institute, Humanities and Sciences, CA Architects, Level 10 Construction, and especially Lands, Buildings, and Real Estate Zones. And I want to further call your attention to all the people who are listed on the back of the program. I don't know if it takes a village or it takes an army or whatever, but it was a lot of people. So thanks to everyone for your hard work to bring the project to completion. And let's enjoy the evening. Thank you.